Hey everybody, welcome back to our study of Stop Trying, How to Receive, Not Achieve Your Real Identity. Today we're going to survey chapters 10 and 11. So we're moving now into part 3, and the idea of part 3 is flourishing. So we've lost our constructed, contrived identities, our horizontal identities, our weak, fragile sense of self. We've discovered this thing, this gem called a gospel identity. Redemption in Jesus that confers upon me my true self, the me that God had in mind in eternity past when he conceived of his time and space plan and put me on the timeline and put you on the timeline. Who did he have in mind? And the idea that we can construct our identity, we've seen that is just completely fraudulent and completely unfulfilling. But the idea that we have one given by our Creator that was lost to sin, but because of the work of Jesus, it has been reclaimed and can be received from my Creator. I can be redeemed back into a relationship with him, and I can walk forward in that new relationship. Now, what does that mean? And here's what we're going to do in part 3, and this is fascinating to me. This is what really drove the heart of this book. What happened to the followers of Jesus after his resurrection? Now, prior to his resurrection, they had their own scripts in mind. They really believed who he was, but they didn't really get it. They didn't understand all the eternal cosmic plan of redemption that God was unfolding. They had small ideas, Jewish nationalism, a geopolitical state, a revival of Jewish supremacy, really, and Jesus was going to be their king, and they were going to rule with him. It was a very constricted idea. But God had a much bigger, much more eternal, much more generous and lavish plan of love and redemptive compassion that was going to be unfolded. And they didn't get it until after the resurrection. Now, after the resurrection, really their dream has been smashed, desolate, but it's been resurrected in a totally new form. They're not getting an earthly kingdom anytime soon. They're not getting an earthly king. In fact, they've gone from outcast Jewish peasants to now wanted and really death warrants out with their names on them, assassination plots against them. Their world has become more dangerous, more risky, more vulnerable, but they are completely different people. They're operating on a completely different economy and with a completely different sense of who they are based on who Jesus is. So this is what we're going to see these next several chapters, how they moved from fear to flourishing. I mean, they explode onto the scene with courage, like ninjas. I mean, they have gone from being cowering, fearful, competitive, comparative, petty little people to being audacious in faith and outrageously united. Those that were competitive before, now they're cohesive in unity, and they love each other, and they work together, and they take massive risks, and they're just not the same people, and they're flourishing in a completely different sense. And here's the beautiful thing. They didn't have to work at this new transformational self. It just arose within them once they realized, once it dawned on them what Jesus had done and who that made them because of who he really was. So I don't want to get ahead of the teacher and of the material, but I think the journey ahead is going to be very exciting for you. So today we're going to focus on fear, and let me see what else is in this chapter. So chapter 10 is hardship, suffering. How does a gospel identity change our view of hardship? And then chapter 11, how does a gospel identity change our view of fear? And how does it resolve fear? So happy studying today. Ask a lot of questions, dig deep, and let God teach you. Thanks for reading. Thanks for studying. Thanks for taking the journey with me.